Now I have brought some papers. Don't you see this? Yesterday you asked me some questions which required a sharp memory for years, which I don't have. My memory is otherwise sharp, but not for years. So I made a few mistakes. I was not sure of some certain years. So I asked Imam Sahib to prepare year-wise list of important events. If you ask me now about certain events, I can tell you exactly in which year they took place. The corrections which I must make. Number one, as far as the year of birth is concerned, obviously, of course, that is 1835. There's no doubt about it. But, and as far as his commissioning is concerned, there is no doubt he was first time commissioned by God in 1882. As far as the death of his father is concerned, it was in 76. I said 64, 65, this was wrong.
76.
76, right?
Yes.
So these are the important years to be corrected. And his visit to Sialkot took place early, much earlier than his father's death. It was in 64.
64.
So it was that visit, you know, which confused me. I knew it was an important year. So it was not the year of his father's death, but the year when he went for the first time to Sialkot to serve there. Now you remember, perhaps, that he claimed to be the promised Messiah in early 91 or 90, end of 90. So his first contact with the Christians was established in 64. And between this and that, how many years is that?
7.
About 27, 26 to 27 years.
That means, Hadhrat, that he was in Sialkot, he was about 31, the age of 31.
Yes, that's right.
And
30. I think it was about less than 29.
From 35 to 64.
Yes.
39.
29.
29, 29.
Just 29 years, less than.
Not 31, but 29.
Sorry. Yes.
1 year was added on the wrong
Yes,
side.
yes.
He was 29 when he visited Sialkot, and there he had his first contact with Christian missionaries in representing Islam against Christianity. And throughout his tenure of 4 years, this was his main occupation. Outside the work at the courts, he continued engaged in his debates in favor of Islam, most often with Christians and many a time with Hindus and Sikhs and others.
How long did he stay in this job? 40 years?
4 years.
4 years. And 68 he
retired.
retired.
And his father died 8 years afterwards.
He was in 41,
76.
in the age of 41 when his father died.
That's right.
Okay.
He was already
Yes.
Now, a very interesting point, I asked Imam Sahib to calculate. I thought there would be a similarity between the contact of Hazrat Muhammad with Christians in Syria and the time distance between that and his claim. So there could have been a similarity, because I know that the Orientalists allege that his knowledge of religion was received from Christian fathers. And because of that, he claimed to be a prophet later on. So the seed of prophethood was sown by the Christian fathers. In the other way, he represented those Christian fathers, in fact, not God. So because I knew Hazrat Masih was a humble servant of Rasulullah, so there would be some similarity on this issue as well. Now, interestingly, his first contact with the Christians was made when he was
13 years.
13 years old. Rasulullah visited Syria along with his uncle. Which one?
Abu Talib.
But which was the Christian who
Buhara Rahib.
Buhara Rahib.
Rahib Buhara.
His first contact was made when he was 13 years old with Buhara Rahib Buhara. Buhara is the name of the Rahib. And that was in Syria. All books of history record this. And what is the difference between 40 and 13?
27.
27.
About the same difference which occurs between the claim of the Masih the Messiah, and the first contact in Sialkot.
Yeah.
Don't you see?
Yes, but the Holy Prophet visited Syria again or Palestine again.
I know,
as
but the first contact,
yes,
I'm talking
the
of the first
first
contact,
yes.
that was repeated later on. So Masih Maud contact with the Christians was a continuous affair
All the time of
afterwards.
his life, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now these corrections had to be made.
Yeah.
Another correction about the years and things. I was under the impression that the first ilham of Hadhrat Mirza was just before the death of his father. But in one of the books of his biography, because I wanted to be sure of all these things, I asked them to find out from different books of biography of Mirza what was the first ilham. Now we have discovered that it was earlier. The first ilham, that is revelation, was earlier. It was in 1960, end of 68 or early 69. 18, not 20. End of 1868 or early 69. This was a ilham of approval of his attitude and righteousness. What happened was that Maulvi Muhammad Hussain Batalvi, who later on became a sworn enemy of Hadhrat Masih, he was an Ahle Hadith. Those who give preference to Hadith for everything else. They would interpret the Quran in the light of Hadith, not the other way around. And Hadhrat Masih belonged to Hanafis. He was a Hanafite by birth, but his family was a Hanafi family. So other Hanafites, and they were in majority, they knew that he was a great scholar, because by that time, at this time, by 1869, his fame was spreading around that he has a deep knowledge of Islam. So they convinced him to represent them in a debate between the Hanafites and the Ahl Hadith. Hadhrat Masih was carried by a huge crowd who was applauding, as their hero. And they entered the mosque in such mood. Maulvi Muhammad Hussain was sitting with a few of his followers. And Hadhrat Masih, before starting the debate blindly, he said, Maulvi Sahib, I want to find out what your views are on the following issues before we enter a debate. Do you think the Quran is Qazi or Hadith is Qazi? Who is the judge? Maulvi said, the Quran is the judge. As Mirza said, then if a Hadith is contradictory to the Quran, which will you follow? He said, the Quran. So he said, this is my faith. What is the debate about? Now he knew that the people who brought him will be very angry. They will think that he has run away from the debate, but there was nothing left in it. So they were actually, they disliked it and they grumbled and mumbled and went away. Very unhappy people that look at him. We brought him in such a... He did it for the sake of God, for the sake of truth. So he received the first revelation from Allah that God has become very pleased. God is very pleased with your righteous attitude. And a time would come when kings will seek blessing from your clothes. So that famous, world famous in fact, Ilham of Masih Islam, Badshah tere kapdon se barakat dhoondenge, was that a part of that Ilham, that revelation, which was bestowed upon him 1869, early 69 or late 68. So these are the corrections. There I am available to you again.
I have to. Yes.
Ma'muriyya fi 1882.
No. This is the Ma'muriyya as the promised Messiah, or
No,
just Ma'mur?
Ma'mur.
Just Ma'mur.
Without any
No,
explanation.
no, no.
I'm going to appoint you,
No,
to commission you for something.
no.
But he was appointed as Masih al-Masih al-Maud in 1891.
Soon after this, after being Ma'mur.
Ma'mur was 82,
82 commission.
not soon.
82.
9 years after.
Then I made another mistake.
So
Now
it is perhaps end of 1890 or beginning of 1891, because the book in which he claims was published early in 1891.
we are now with the promised Messiah when he was in Sialkot and not yet as a Ma'mur, and Hadhrat
It
explained
was in
some.
64.
Yes, some of his.
Debates with
Yes, we
Christians.
want to know a full picture as much as we can about what he did with the people, the Muslims,
You
non-Muslims.
see, what happened was, he spent his time in the court, and as he finished the job, a few hours work, he was already famous for his debates on behalf of Islam. That was his life. He sometimes sat late after midnight discussing Islam and contesting with others the superiority of Islam. And in this he made a wide circle and wide acquaintance of the knowledgeable people of Sialkot at that time. His major contests or debates were with the Christians, not only within the court but outside the Sialkot. He went on debating the unitaries of the Quran and the Islam as against the Old and New Testament, etc., etc. And also with the Hindus and other people of other faiths. So he made his name as a stalwart of Islam, as a warrior fighting the cause of Islam. And no other occupation is ever reported during that period. Either he would go to the court, or we would discuss Islam and study Islam and represent the beauty of Islam and Rasul Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And of course the nights were spent largely in prayers and so on. You see, there was a great Muslim scholar of Indian fame, if not Indian fame, at least the Punjab and the area around. His name was Maulana Sayyid Mir Hassan Sahib. He used to be in Sialkot during the period when Muslims of Islam worked in the courts. So he made a statement which was published. I have taken it from Khalifatul Mahdi Taba Awwal. Yes, बयान का पता? 1800 कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? 84 है? Right. 64 है ये. 84 नहीं, 64.
64.
I'm talking of the statement. To whom did he deliver the statement, and when was it made public? We don't have the full data on this here in this book, at least, but I want to tell you that Maulana Sayyid Mir Hussain Sahib was a great Muslim scholar, highly revered, and he came to know of Masih al-Islam, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, during that period. Later on, when ulama wanted him to speak against him, he refrained. He never said a word against him. And he gave his witness that I have seen him during that tenure of Hazrat Mirza Sahib in Sialkot. I found him to be an excellent Musliman. Nothing against Islam was ever found in his character, in his bearing. And he always, I'll tell you the words. He speaks that I first came into touch with him when I needed, during a case he was pleading in the court, an Arab interpreter from Arabic to Urdu, who knew Arabic, because that was something that I needed. And at that time he could speak Arabic so well and understand it so well that he was impressed. He said, I was surprised to see him, and during that period he saw him as a very pious, righteous young man. So this was one of the testimonies in favor of Hadhrat Masih Islam, but he is not the only person.
Where is it published?
Huh?
Where is it published? Is it published in a book
No,
here
this
or
book-
our time?
This book is Hayat-e-Tayyiba from Sheikh Abdul Qadir.
Yes.
But that is what I was saying to him. I said, we are quoting an Ahmadi book,
Yes.
but we would like to know who was the first witness who heard it from him,
Yes.
or when his statement was first published. It is not mentioned here.
Yes. Okay.
So let us leave it alone for a while.
Inshallah. Yes.
Even if we can't produce this, we know certainly that during his tenure of Sialkot, he came into wide contact with all people, and when he claimed to be a prophet or a Messiah, none of them stood up and said, we know you, you are the one who lived in Sialkot, you did that and you did that and you. Not a single blemish was cast over his character during that period of his exposure. In Qadian, he remained within a limited society. If he had bad habits, they could be hidden. But in Sialkot, when he was openly exposed to all the critics, because he had started the fights in favor of Islam, for the sake of Islam, everybody looked at him critically. When he claimed to be appointed by God, not a single voice was raised against him, alleging that, oh, you are the man who used to be that, and you behaved this, that, and you were unrighteous and you had that blemish. So that lack of the enemy's attack on his character relating to that period is a proof enough that he spent his life like the ideally righteous person in Islam.
Especially that he moved from a village to a city.
To a city, yes. Where nobody from that village ever knew him.
يقول أمير
The point is,
المؤمنين.
all his enemies who became like Muhammad Hussain Batalvi, they knew him from that period onwards. Now another very interesting, I think most important witness in this regard is Maulvi Muhammad Hussain Batalvi, I mentioned earlier. He is the prime enemy after he claimed to be the Promised Messiah. He became his prime enemy. And he was a very highly revered person among the Ahle Hadith people, and his fame had spread far and wide. He knew Arab scholars and Muslims of great fame in Mecca and Medina and so on. This is the man we're talking about. When Hadhrat Masih Maud wrote his first book in 1880, that was Anti-Ahmadiyya. First part was published in 1880, then second part in the same year, and the third part in 1882, and the fourth in 1884. Right? Now this man, Maulvi Muhammad Hussain Batalvi, which year is it when he wrote this?
Complete reference is not here.
But in his own, when he wrote these books, this book in different volumes, commenting on these books in his own newspaper or magazine, which was named Ishaatus Sunnah. It is volume 7th, page 169, 170. Now because yearly it was published under volumes, one volume, second volume, third volume, so they started counting the pages from the first to the end. So that is why it was a magazine, yet the number of pages is very huge, very big.
Here is 1884.
It was in 1884.
Same year.
2 years after Hadhrat Masih had already claimed to have been commissioned by God. Yet he had not claimed to be the Prophet Messiah. So he tolerated up to that. And commenting on this book, he says, हमारी राय में ये किताब इस ज़माने में और मौजूदा हालात की वजह से ऐसी किताब है जिसकी नज़ीर आज तक इस्लाम में तालीफ नहीं हुई और आइंदा की खबर नहीं. In our considered opinion, the book which is under review, his book Anti-Ahmadiyya, the like of it has never been published before, written by anybody. As far as the future is concerned, Allah knows best. But about the past we know. We are, scholarly people, we know.
Yes.
No book like this has ever been published before. La'allallahu yuhdithu ba'da dhalika amra. If Allah, shows something, brings something about, he knows better. He said, इसका मौलिफ भी इस्लाम की माली और जानी, क़ल्बी, लिसानी, हाली, क़ाली नुसरत में ऐसा साबित कदम निकला है कि जिसकी नज़ीर पहले मुसलमानों में बहुत कम पाई गई. The author of this book, in his sacrifices for the sake of Islam, financial sacrifices, sacrifices in writing, sacrifices in speaking on behalf of Islam, sacrifices in his own person, the very life his style is lived. And to aid and support Islam. He's so foremost and so pronounced, so prominent among the Muslims of all ages that the like of him is very difficult to find in the entire history of Islam. These are the compliments.
SubhanAllah.
In the whole history of Islam, study, it's very difficult to find the equal to him. हमारे इन अल्फाज को कोई एशियाई मुबालगा समझे तो हमको कम से कम एक ऐसी किताब बता दे जिसमें जुमला फ़िरका है मुखालिफिन इस्लाम, खुसूसन आर्य अब्राहम समाज से इस जोर शोर से मुकाबला पाया जाता है. That if somebody takes our review to be a case of Asiatic exaggerations, Oriental exaggerations, our retort to that person would be, all right, bring a single book in which Islam has been so perfect, beautifully defended against all faiths, particularly against the Aryas and Brahmo Samajis, the Hindus of India, who were the predominant in India, and with such vigor and such vitality. And show us, bring the names to us of 3 or 4 stalwarts and warriors who fought the battles of Islam like he did. There is no Oriental exaggeration in it. He says it, I am a scholar of Islam, I have an eye on the history of Islam, so I challenge you, bring forth 2 or 3 or 4, just a few, such people who defended Islam like he is defending, and a book like his book which has ever been published. Now this is not only a testimony, this was a challenge. And not a single person rose to accept this challenge and call his bluff if he took it to be a bluff. It's a very interesting statement. इसके अलावा हाली नुसरत का भी बीड़ा उठा लिया हो और मुखालिफीन इस्लाम और मुनकरीन ने इल्हाम के मुकाबला में मर्दाना तहज्जी के साथ ये दावा किया हो कि जिसको वजूद इल्हाम में शक हो वो हमारे पास आकर तजुर्बा और मुशाहिदा कर ले और इस तजुर्बा और मुशाहिदा का अक़वाम गैर को मज़ा भी चखा दिया हो. What a commitment he made at that time. He said it's not just the writing of the book. He challenged with great courage and outstanding force not only these religions, but those who were atheists, who did not believe in the existence of God. And he said, all right, come. If you do not believe in the existence of God and in the existence of revelations, come to me and look at me. I am the recipient of revelations. God has been speaking to me. And I can prove to you that my revelations are from God and they are right. He says he not only did this, he proved it to be the right thing. Imagine. Then this man, out of love of Christ, became his first enemy. Because he tolerated everything but did not tolerate any man who declared that Christ was dead. That was the only crime Masih Maud committed in his eyes. It was unpardonable, unforgivable. And what about this ilham, this way which he had proved that he was a man of God who received messages from God? What happened to that?
You see, Hadhrat, either he is liar here or liar there.
That's right.
And in both cases, we cannot accept it.
It's not acceptable. The first statement is acceptable because it is before the enmity.
Yes, yes.
وَأَنُ الرَّضَى عَنْ كُلِّ إِعَابٍ كَلِيلَةٌ
Now,
كَمَا أَنَّ أَنَ السُّخْتِ تُبْدِي الْمَصَابِيَةِ.
even
Before
if,
the أَنَ السُّخْتِ, this is what he said.
yes.
He might have exaggerated, but he proves, he raises this issue. Don't think I do it for love. Love always exaggerates. But here are the two reasons why I say it is not exaggeration.
What is the number of the page, Hadhrat, please? 169?
169, 170.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
Ashatu Sunnah.
Yes, sir. I have all this.
And Jild 7.
Yes.
The volume 7.
Yes, sir.
Published in 84.
Yes.
Published in 1984.
84. Yes.
1884.
Yes.
When he, Maulvi Muhammad Hassan Batalvi and the like of him, opposed him later on, you know what Hazrat Mirza Sahib said in response? He said, فَقَدْ لَبِثُّ فِيكُمْ عُمَرًا مِنْ قَبْلِهِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. The same verse, which was present, which you find in the Quran in defense of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He used the same argument. He said, you are the people who stood witness to the entire life of more than 40 years of absolute righteousness and defense of Islam. Suddenly you say, I am the worst man? How could we accept your testimony now?